69% of small businesses, as in 69% of entrepreneurs, start their businesses at home. At least that's a statistic for the US. Hi y'all, thanks so much for joining me. In less than 15 minutes, I'll be sharing with you 4 tips that you can use to improve your home office setup so that you could be more productive and grow that business that you're working so hard on developing, right? Like and share this video if you get value from it. And thanks so much for joining me, as I mentioned. So seriously, 69% of entrepreneurs start their businesses at home. That's a statistic from the Small Business Trends, right? And women are more likely to start a business at home and continue to have that business, even after 3 or 5 years. You can check out the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, the 2019-2020 version of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. They have a PDF that you can download that has all of these amazing statistics on entrepreneurship and also some additional information on entrepreneurship as well that you can go ahead and check out. And I think I forgot to introduce myself again. I think I've been doing that all week. So I'm Dr. P. I'm a business coach and I'm a business solutions coach, really. And I have been a school psychologist for about 10 years in K-12 schools in the US. I'm also a part-time faculty member for our online graduate program in psychology, right? I really enjoy coaching, teaching, mentoring, sharing information with others. And I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas, so feel free to say where you're joining from as you join in. And when you think about the fact that 69% of entrepreneurs start their businesses at home, it really got me to thinking about, how I actually work from home. Like the whole environment, the whole setup of it all. And that's something that I've been thinking about, on and off for the last couple of months, like many of you have been thinking as well. Because for some of you, you might be starting your business, so you're still doing your full-time 9-to-5 job that is helping to support your business that you're working on, or you've transitioned and now you actually are focusing on your business and you don't have to be worrying about working for somebody else. Regardless, you probably are working from home. And when you're working from home, there are a lot of challenges that you didn't even factor in when you started working from home. So I really started thinking about, how life was when I was a school psychologist and the things that I kind of had to deal with. And many of you could relate to this. So when I think about working as a school psychologist, you didn't really get much opportunity for natural lighting. That's the truth. You didn't get many opportunities for natural lighting. Because the thing is that when you got your office space, you were lucky if you got an office that had windows, right? You got more likely a space that nobody else wanted, that was tucked away, and there were 0 windows, not even a door with a window in it, right? So you were really in a room with just 4 walls, and then you had these amazing lights that were just those fluorescent bulbs that just had like this orange hue or a yellow hue to it. And if you wear glasses like me, that's really so frustrating and annoying, really, because then you get all this glare coming because you have your computer. If you had a laptop or you had a desktop, you had this computer glare coming down, and it wasn't natural lighting. So it was like, oh my gosh, all this strain on your eyes trying to figure out why you're getting headaches. If you didn't know, it could be because of the lighting in your office space. So it's like the lighting was not natural whatsoever. Then there was also the furniture in the room. If you were lucky, if you got an office chair, because there were times when I was given offices where there was no office chair, there was just this little plastic chair I had to sit in. And then even if you got an office chair, I'm talking about one of those leather chairs, an executive chair, or even one of those cushiony chairs that you can actually adjust up and down. You can change the back of the chair as well, right? So when you got those, you were lucky if they worked and if they were able to carry you up to the right height that you wanted to, because I had chairs that you could crank up, but as soon as you sit down in it, it kind of sinks you all the way down to the ground. So I was like, okay, so that wasn't really conducive, because then my knees are all the way down to the ground, desk is up here, and it's really uncomfortable to work. Or you had those chairs where when you sat back in it, you sat so far back, you felt as though you were going to fall all the way over, right? Because It was a chair, of course. It was a hand-me-down chair. It wasn't a chair that they bought for you. So it wasn't really conducive for me being productive because I spent so much time fiddling with the chair. And of course, you're sharing office space. So whoever was there before you had this chair a different setting. So now you're trying to get it to work for you. So you spend so much time on this. So are you think you're being productive? You're not, because you're trying to fix a chair that also seems as it can't be fixed, right? But you're doing the best you can with what you have. And then when you finally get the chair adjusted and you sit down, you're sitting like this with your hands too high up, or your hands are aiming down because the chair and the desk weren't at the right height. So it was really uncomfortable. So you either ended up, with all these shoulder issues, these neck issues, these back issues, knees issues, hip issues, because you weren't really having a good work environment and you're not being productive. Then, of course, are the sounds. Because when I was working in schools, you had all these different sounds. Had the bell going off for every time they were changing periods. And you had some really annoying AC vents that had this really loud hum. Then you had these clocks that tick so much. And then my favorite, the drills. Because when you're working in the schools, you have all these drills that go off, right? And the bells that go off for all the drills, because you have to maintain your crisis prevention plan. And you have to have people ready for a crisis. So you have all this going on. And you're trying to figure out, okay, when is all the noise going to actually stop? So you have to make your adjustment. The drills you have no control over, right? Because those are going to happen whenever. Then you get to know when the bells are going to go off in the school, because you just brace yourself for it. Sometimes with the clock, you could actually remove the clock because you could use something else. But the AC was something you couldn't really do anything about because that was beyond the school campus's control. So you just had all these noises that you had to factor in. And with that also came the phone. Because the phone could ring at any point in time. And when the phone rings, you don't know what's going to be on the other end. You don't know if this is going to be a quick phone call, if it's going to be a long phone call, if it's going to be complicated. You don't know. But you have to answer the phone. You could be in the middle of doing whatever task you were doing, but the phone goes off. So there comes this disruption that you have to deal with, right? So then you're not sure again how long that's going to pull you away from what you were working on. And then when you hang up, what you will have to do, to find a solution to whatever the problem was on the phone. So again, you have all these things going on, because you hear me talk about the disruptions that happen. Oh, my favorite. When you have your office space, you're not sure if your office space is laid out in such a way that you're facing the door. You could be back in the door. You could be right up on the door. You could be far away from the door. You can have that door open. You have it closed, right? But then you have people who would just stop in whenever they wanted to, and they strike up these conversations. And if you're not one of those people that are good at interrupting or cutting people off politely, of course, these people come in and then they're talking to you. A minute turns into 15, turns into half an hour, turns into an hour. And they kind of took away the time that you already allotted to be working on something else. So again, with the interruptions and the disruptions. So it was like, oh my goodness, all this stuff. And how can I forget the smells? Because you're not quite sure where your office space is going to be, right? So you could be connected to a spot wherein you're right next to the bathroom, or you're right by the cafeteria. If you're by the cafeteria, you get the smells and the sounds. But when you're by the bathroom, if you're by a bathroom that the door does not close all the time, it's always open, so you have these smells to deal with. So again, you have this other thing kind of disrupting your work environment. So you're probably sitting down going, what the hell does got to do anything with my home office? Here's the thing. You heard me talk about 4 things that are really vital. It doesn't matter where you're working, but they do impact your work environment. That's why I really wanted to share some of the stuff I went through, because with the things I went through, I made some adjustments, found some solutions, and they worked for me. There were some that I could not implement because it was really impossible to get a new office room itself. So you had to do what you have. So having the home environment, a lot of those things that I did while working in a school system, I'm also doing from a home environment, because they helped me to be more productive when I was working in the schools, and it's helped me to be productive now. That's why I wanted to share these 4 tips with you. And with those 4 tips, right? Those 4 tips, I'm sure you can start to implement it while you're watching this video, or just as soon as you start watching this video. Because with these 4 tips, here's what these 4 tips are. Very first one is set a schedule. You need to set a set schedule. As an entrepreneur, you have to set a schedule for yourself, because you're no longer working, in a 9-to-5 job that might have had a schedule set out for you. you are working for yourself, and there are tons of things you have to get done. And because home and business are always interacting with each other, because you're working from a home business, you have to set a schedule. And if you're living with other people, or if you have pets, the schedule is really important. Because when I set a schedule as a school psychologist, that working in schools, that helped me to really get rid of some of those unwanted interruptions, because I came up with office hours. And I'm using the same concept, working from home. You have to have that time wherein people that you're living with can actually have time to access you rather than interrupting you. So you work that time into your schedule. And if you have pets, especially dogs, you probably have to take your dog out for a walk. I know I have to take my dog out. So I have that worked into my schedule so it doesn't interrupt my schedule and it doesn't interrupt the task that I'm working on. Because like I said, as entrepreneurs, there's so many things that we have to be working on. So you have to set that schedule and stick to that schedule. The next tip I want to share with you, after you set that schedule, the next tip I want to share with you is the lighting. Wherever you decide to work in your home, make sure you have appropriate lighting. Don't go sit in a dark hole, because if you're sitting in a part of the home that is dark, you're probably not going to feel as though you're being productive, because there's so many other things you could think of. Sleep might be the first thing that comes to mind, because the darkness might not be beneficial for your work productivity, right? So look for a place in your home that has that access to natural lighting, so that you can have as much natural lighting as possible, because that really does help with our energy, with our overall positive feeling. And if there's a spot in the home that is good for you, but it doesn't have access to natural lighting, consider getting the eco-friendly energy saver white lights that can give you that white light, natural lighting feel while still being in a space, in a room where you can be productive, because I know everybody's place is structured differently. So talked about setting a schedule and talked about the lighting. So then the other thing is sounds. Because when you live by yourself, yeah, you can control the sounds, because pretty much you're the only person making sounds in your home. But so long as you have pets and you have children, you have spouses, you have significant others, you have your friends, you have your roommate, you have parents over, you have these other things that are going to be distracting, and they're going to be producing noise. They could be watching TV, they could be listening to music, they could be having conversations. The point is, there's going to be all these sounds going on. So you have to find ways to help you kind of limit those distractions. And it could be that you find some noise canceling headphones, you get one of those white noise machines, or you could turn on some instrumental music or waves or whatever it is, whatever type of background music that you can use to just be white noise, so that it can kind of just block out all the other noises going on in your background and help you to just focus on what you're working on. Because you don't want to be sitting at your computer and be like, oh my gosh, there goes that dog again. Oh my gosh, why are they talking so loud? You don't want that. You want something that can help you block out all of those noises so that you can focus on what you're working on. So, talked about the schedule, we talked about lighting, talked about sounds. So the other thing that we're going to talk about is really furniture. So when you're setting up your office space, be mindful of the furniture that you're using. Get something that you can put your laptop on, your desktop on, whatever it is that you're using. Get a desk, a desktop, a desk service. Get get a desk that you can actually use, and get a chair that really goes with that desk. Because when you're sitting and working to increase your productivity, you shouldn't be hunched over, you shouldn't be slouched all the way back, you shouldn't be crunched down like this. You should be in a place where your hips are squarely in the chair, your thighs are parallel to the floor, your knees are at a 90-degree angle. And I learned all these tips from an occupational therapist, by the way, when I was working in schools, to help me improve my work environment. And it has served me throughout the years, because you want to make sure your elbows are also at 90-degree angle. You want to make sure you have that comfort so that you can be productive. You'll be surprised at how big of a change these things can make to your productivity. Because if you're slouching, if you're leaned over, if you're hunched over, your body is not really in a good stance. So therefore, you're not going to be as productive as you should be. So just making these changes can help you out so much. So you've got to be comfortable. Get a comfortable chair. Make sure to check the dimensions if you're ordering it from online, or even if you're ordering it from a store, because you want to make sure it's a chair you can fit in and a chair that can actually adjust to support your knees. Get the one with lumbar back support if you need that. But the point is, get things that are going to get you to be comfortable while working, because the more comfortable you are, the more productive you're going to be, right? You can check out helix.com for more suggestions on getting that ergonomic feel within your work environment. So along with these 4 tips, I want to share with you, make sure that you actually get dressed for work, and consider taking breaks. Don't be in your pajamas, because if you're in pajamas and if you decide to go sit on your bed, guess what your brain is going to think? Oh my gosh, it's sleep time. So make sure that you're getting yourself ready, getting your mind ready for work. Take the breaks, get dressed for work. Incorporate these 4 tips into your day-to-day for your work as an entrepreneur, and you're going to start to see some changes in your productivity. So message me if you want to learn more on how you can improve your productivity while adjusting your work environment for your entrepreneurship business in your home. So you can message me if you want to learn more about that. And remember, solutions plus actions equals results. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye, y'all.